Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Podcast, episode 80. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
Today we have an important episode. We're going to be talking about the Warhammer 40k app and all of its alternatives. Anyone who does not know this, the Monday after this episode goes out, the Warhammer 40k app is going to start charging you $6 a month to continue using it.
Yay!
So without any further ado, let's get into the ways out of this mess.
Sounds good. I guess the first way out of this mess is to just pay them money.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, I'm not going to, but it is technically a way out.
So, Eric and I are pretty entrenched in Warhammer stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have a podcast or anything like that.
So, we have a lot of hours clocked in Battlescribe, and now we have quite a few hours in the 40k app. So, to help get an extra perspective from someone else who is not so into this stuff, I forced my wife for 3 hours last night to sit there and go through every army building app I could get a hold of for her to test out.
Jesus Christ, that's cruel and unusual punishment.
She declined to be on the episode after doing 3 hours of research, so she just gave me all the notes.
I mean, that's probably for the best, or you'd be actually dead, so...
So a large chunk of this is going to be the review of my wife on my end of things, plus Eric's review, and I'll chip in here and there.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good thing because, like you said, the two of us have become so used to the quirks of Battlescribe that it's difficult to, like, take a step back and go, the fuck is happening here? I think it's probably right to start with the Warhammer 40k app from GW, though, because, like, that's what we've kind of been using for a while, because Battlescribe wasn't updated, and the reason we're looking for the alternative is because it's going to become a pay subscription thing.
Yes. And before we rip into anyone's design choices or anything like that, I want to remind you that making apps and all of this stuff is very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
It's much easier to be an ass and review it negatively than to make it. It won't stop me from doing so, though. So the 40k app is a big upgrade over the predecessor.
Oh, yeah.
However, on Monday, August 28th, they will be turning off the ability to use it, unless you start paying them $6 a month, plus probably $65 per book every time a book is released.
They haven't said that.
But we know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
To put it this way, to put your doubts to rest about how much of a shit they don't give about you, there was a Reddit thread that someone posted literally the day we're recording this, where they spoke to someone from GW because they were like, "Hi, I'm Canadian. We're not allowed to subscribe to Warhammer Plus because you're doing something illegal. How are we supposed to use Battleforge after August 28th? To which the GW rep said, "We apologize for the inconvenience," which is get bent, idiot, in corporate.
It is, yeah. I did think it was entertaining, though, that the first part of the response was like, this took a while because I had to check to see who actually was in charge of this. And it's like, that was somebody that was like, there's no fucking way we stop Canada from using the app, right? Oh, we do? Huh, that sucks.
So yeah, let's actually do a review of the app. I don't have a bunch of negative stuff to say, honestly. It's a decent attempt.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good aspects to it that I enjoy. The look and feel of it is nice. It's nice to see the units. It's nice to see, like, this is what your army is supposed to kind of look like when you're building it in the list.
Yes, from a UI and UX standpoint, you can do a lot worse, and we're going to.
Yeah, it's not perfect in UX, but it's good enough that the imperfections become annoying kind of thing. It's not like, wow, this is unusable. It's, wow, I hate having to go back to the reference and searching for something during gameplay. Which is annoying.
So, to get into my wife's notes for this, because again, she's played a whopping 3 games of 10th edition or something.
Okay.
I'm just going to read off all of her notes. At this point, this is from her perspective. It's only on phone, not on PC, which forces you to run BlueStacks to try to run it on PC. That's annoying. And I agree with her.
Yeah, I've actually never ran it on PC just because I didn't feel like dealing with it, so.
Borrelio, you can keep this in the episode so everyone knows how evil I am. I want you to get footage of of the 40K app before no one can ever see it again. So go ahead and put it on BlueStacks and get all the nice, pretty video for the audience, and you can enjoy suffering of trying to get something set up on an Android emulator.
Yeah, it's not particularly fun, especially if it's your first time doing that.
Over the 3 games, it either froze or crashed twice, and she had to get me to fix it.
Really? That's fascinating. I've actually yet to have it crash.
That's my experience too, and it's where I wonder if she tapped back too many times or something. Whatever.
I mean, if that is the case, it's still not particularly exciting to hear that it did happen, though.
Yeah. Her complaint that I had forgotten I've had the complaint for so many months now is you can't see what options do when you're picking them. All of the data about those is on a different screen, so it made it very slow for her to try building her first lists. Adding a new model doesn't have a copy-paste feature, so when you add like an extra warrior to your unit, you have to fill out the new loadout for it. You can't just grab one you want to copy.
Yeah, and on that, there's actually a setting that you have to turn on.
To even load a new unit gets a default war gear set, and that was in an update very recently, like the last week or 2.
Okay, I don't feel as bad about missing it then, because I just found it as we were putting these, I was like, okay, I'll go through it again, poke around, and I was like, oh, there's a user preferences now. That's nice.
No, we were putting lists together for Saturday last week. As we were opening up the app and updating everything to actually put our list together, both me and our buddy, we both were like, oh, hey, they actually updated and now it's got this option thing we can select.
It is nice. I don't know why it's not on by default.
Probably because it would break something with how they programmed it, but...
But yeah, it is kind of annoying that when you're adding more models to the unit, you can't just be just copy that one.
Another point she had is you can't save unit loadouts between lists, which is true, but it's going to be a downside we see throughout these.
Yeah, that would be nice, though.
And she brought this up, and I know for our more experienced players, you and I have the same but actually moment here. But her point still stands. You can't mark leaders of a unit to test if it's legal, where you won't end up with an awkward leader that can't be put with a unit.
Yeah.
Technically, you don't declare that until the starting of the game, but no one builds lists like that. You build your list with intent to put leaders in certain squads. I don't care about the one fucking scenario you found in 19 Dickety 2 where that's different. For Warhammer 40K's app, she has used it in games. So she brought up the issue of war gear options includes guns and melee weapons, which on the datasheet are not listed under war gear.
Okay.
It's a fair one to be annoyed with when you're trying to put a unit together, especially as a new person, which is the target audience of these types of apps, especially this app.
And especially because, and I'm assuming that this is one of the things that she's going to bring up, is that when you're looking at the actual list and you're war gear ability, and trying to figure out what the unit does, that's not where it's your custom unit loadout. It's here's the data sheet of all the options.
Yes, which is in her list.
So I can definitely understand as a new player, seeing war gear options with guns and melee would be your other screen doesn't say that.
A thing she thought was a good positive was when you open up the datasheet from your list, the first thing you see is the stat line, which is usually the first thing you want if it's something like, I'm being shot at, what's my toughness?
Yeah, absolutely. Or I'm moving, how far can I move?
But she also has, you're forced to see all the guns that you don't have equipped in the datasheet.
That is one thing I don't enjoy.
And she recommended move those to the options screen and fill the datasheet with the options that are checked.
Absolutely.
She enjoyed the validation check mark in the list building and clicking it, bringing up your list of issues. And obviously this is something that's a running thing on all of these.
That is really quite nice. Yes, I agree.
Oh, this is a big negative she had, especially during gameplay. When reading your war gear options, you often have to tab back and forth. And it would be way easier if you could have things in windows or frames if it was a full application or on a web page type thing instead of the app where it just full swaps you to a new tab.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the layout where the stratagems and stuff like that are on this other reference tab.
This is another good one she had from when she was playing her games. This is a direct quote from my wife. I have 2 Carnifexes led by Old One-Eye. There's no way to look at their stats while also seeing their leader's effects on their stats. Doing a single fight phase often required me to do 7+ screen swaps. Clicking wrong once would boot me out of my list entirely and then I have to reload it, which happened at least 2 more times than the other freezes and crashes.
Yeah, it's rather annoying trying to look at abilities that are affecting units that you can't like look at both together kind of thing. Not that it's particularly good in any of the other ones, but it's especially annoying when you have to like the entire screen is switching back and forth and you have to go into new options to find it.
I do know she was a bigger fan in one of the alternatives of how it looked for finding that info, because that was one of her tests. She kept loading her same list into all of the apps.
Which is fair, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to figure out what the differences are to use known quantities in all of them.
And I can see that like this could have been alleviated if you were able to mark leaders as part of the unit, because then it could be like, oh, those Carnifexes are led by Old One-Eye. They'll get affected by Old One-Eye's ability, so we'll put that in here kind of thing.
And again, I think part of the problem isn't that it doesn't like modify them because of it. It's that it's so many tab swaps to go back and check.
Yeah, I've definitely accidentally gone out of the list a few times of like, shit, I'm looking in the reference, I'm just going back. Oh, damn it, which list? And I don't know if she brought this up because she probably didn't, but the list itself, like the Battle Forge, hey, select your list. It's kind of cool to see the little image there. But I've got like 50 fucking lists. That's a pain in the dick to find.
So yes, I, like you, have a billion lists. I wish that I could put a custom picture on each of my lists if they're going to have me scroll through that many pictures.
Or give me an option to just remove all the fluff and just be like, here's the name, it's orcs, it's 1,000 points.
You might be right. That might be useful too, but I was thinking the other way of, so I could have a flashy picture, I know what I'm looking for. I want the one of Goku charging a spirit bomb, like if I load that in there.
Yeah, either way, this is something that I'm sure that she didn't run into, but like, I'm sure you have as well, of like, I'm scrolling through because I accidentally went back too far, and it's like, okay, where the fuck is the list I was actually in? Oh, right, there it is, finally.
Think of it this way. Every time we do content for the show, I usually make a list for every army if it's an army by army type episode. I have a lot of lists.
Yeah, it is rather annoying when you get kicked out all the way of, you go back of it too much and you're out of the list and it's like, fuck.
From my personal experience, it is faster to load a list than Battlescribe by a factor of 100. Battlescribe chugs loading a heavy list.
That is a benefit. The Warhammer app is pretty snappy.
Especially considering it's loading pictures and stuff. Like, I'd expect it to be slower than the alternatives, and it's doing better than at least one I know.
It's actually, I've had no real issues with waiting.
Ah, yes. So, this was a negative for her, but she wasn't aware of what was going to be the future. Getting to your strats in the same app as your list requires you to do a bunch of bouncing around and feels really clunky when you're trying to use them mid-game. She did not know that that was the last time she was going to see her strats. Which gets into a whole thing we'll get into later in the episode.
It is annoying, though. I agree. Especially, it's not just strats, it's also your army ability.
Yes. Having to tab around just within that annoyed her because she wasn't understanding the index's structure.
I still don't fucking understand it.
It's not that hard.
No, it's fucking bullshit. Why is strats in the detachments part with enhanced? I don't know. It sort of makes sense, I agree, but like...
This is going to become apparent as soon as we get codexes. It was needless with indexes, but it is formatted to be correct when the codexes drop. Because every detachment will have unique stratagems. So the strats can't be in your army area, they have to be in the detachment you chose.
It makes sense, yes. But at the moment, it's fucking annoying.
It caused her confusion as well. Okay, this is one she brought up. If you have a leader and the models in the unit don't match the move characteristic of the leader, it's too easy to randomly cheat by using the larger move characteristic for the ones who shouldn't be able to do it. And she said this could be blamed on the game's design and not the app itself, which is very fair.
If you're not able to mark that the leader goes with the units, there's not really anything that the app can do.
Yeah, because she had like the big brain bug who was leading the little puppy dogs.
Yeah.
I know all my new Tyranid names perfectly already, as you can tell.
Absolutely. To be fair, it's not that common.
I think it's more common than it isn't sometimes. Ahriman on disc, Exalted Sorcerer on disc. I've got all sorts of ones that don't match in my army. Orcs have ones that don't match. The point is, it shouldn't be a thing at all.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. It's probably an issue with 10th's design, but we'll get into that in a later episode.
Yeah.
Another one she had is the UI for the header doesn't scroll. This isn't an issue on small data sheets, but like the Carnifex, where there's guns for 6 screen lengths. Once you get past the top, you have to remember the exact order of the numbers because it's just naked numbers on a screen. And that's a fair one, especially if you're newer. And especially because I keep screwing up that attack on my melee weapons is the first one and not my strength.
Yeah.
How is this strength 3? Oh, it's attacks 3, strength 6.
I can definitely see that with Tyranids being annoying.
Yes, and then she mentioned the one that you were just complaining about, the index area taking a lot of correct menu diving to get to what you need.
I have found that the correct way of navigating the index section or the reference section is to just search.
I haven't tried it. I just kind of feared doing that. I guess that would work. And then for her final 2 notes, this is by far the best looking option. Presentation is top tier compared to the others, even though it comes at the cost of usability, which is all very fair. And her other note, when we talked about pricing of stuff, she said $6 a month is way too much. This is not half the content of Netflix good.
That's a hilarious way of... I agree.
All right, so that handles the first one and probably the longest of the reviews, other than what we're about to do with the Battlescribe part.
Yeah.
So, Battlescribe. Let's talk about the obvious issue for people who are entrenched in what's going on in 40K's list builders and stuff.
It is one of those that previously Battlescribe was the way to make lists.
When we started playing, it was the only way to make a list.
And it was good enough that it did the job.
But then over a year or two, you notice, like, man, Battlescribe sure hasn't updated much. Really wish there was a dark mode, and I really wish this random bug or whatever would get fixed.
Yeah. And another part was like it was more obvious when certain armies were more paid attention to than others. But that's just how community-led list building stuff will just generally work that way.
That gets into a problem I'm not leading into, though. So the problem I'm leading into is Battlescribe is abandonware, allegedly. I have to say allegedly a lot here because there are going to be some serious accusations.
It's flat out allegedly.
It's a very magical word that keeps lawyers away. They hate it. This one simple trick. So, in August 2022, Battlescribe stopped being able to be downloaded from the Apple Store. This was a mystery to everybody as to why, because the Battlescribe author/sold developer, the only person with all of the source code, had disappeared off the face of the planet 2 years before and was just collecting paychecks.
This was around the time that Apple was kind of tightening up their requirements for how often you have to update certain things and keep that going. So it was like, maybe that's what's going on. But apparently it was just a credit card.
Yeah, so it magically came back on the store a couple weeks later, and the Battlescribe Twitter account woke up for the first time in 2 years to go, "Welp, this is embarrassing. Apparently, an expired credit card caused my iOS developer account to go down for a bit, meaning the app couldn't be reached in the App Store. It should be back up and running now/soon, heart."
Facepalm.
Yeah, so this is the first anyone had heard of the developer in 2 years, including the data developers who are the people who make 40K work on that app. To explain this to people who are unaware, Battlescribe is like Microsoft Excel. It is just a program that you put stuff into. When you subscribe to Battlescribe and pay X dollars a year for it, you are not paying the people who make the 40K stuff that you use. You are paying the guy who made the Excel equivalent. The 40K developers had not heard from him in almost 2 years, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. But from what we've understood, they had tried to reach out multiple times of like, hey, this is a problem with this army because of new things.
Yes, Space Marines in 9th was a famous issue because of how 9th edition had to factor lists or whatever. Apparently, Space Marine updates would melt Battlescribe.
And nothing happened. The community did their best. The data developers had done a fantastic job on making things work, even when Battlescribe itself wasn't helping.
And it's unfortunate because a lot of people who aren't in the know believed they were helping that group by subscribing to Battlescribe. But from a technical standpoint, you cannot give them money for their work, no matter how much you want to. The 40K data devs cannot be paid for doing something that is against IP law. It will summon the lawyers. So they must always do this out of the kindness of their hearts. It is incredibly unfortunate, but it's how it has to work.
Yeah. I mean, there's obvious ways around it, but Battlescribe is a separate thing, and the data developers are not able to interact with the source code of Battlescribe.
Yes, which has been a constant source of issues. If you're on their Discord like I am, you've heard it mentioned on many occasions. Where Crusade? Yeah, there's been issues on their end because of not being able to access the code. So then the author of Battlescribe went on to jump around and parade on Twitter for a few days, saying that he was alive and that Battlescribe is totally not abandonware and you shouldn't listen to the haters. Allegedly, the Battlescribe data devs attempted to reach out. He ghosted them as he had done for the last 2 years, allegedly, and then they posted a giant public shaming post all over the internet to try to get him to pay attention. So then he made a public rebuttal or whatever. It's very hard for me to get a hold of it. I have to go from memory and from comments on other threads that still exist, but it basically gave a bit of a boohoo story as to why he wasn't doing any updates and why he hadn't thought about this other than as a free paycheck. And then he promised to do better and that he was going to be an active community member again and keep updating Battlescribe. And 3 weeks later, he made his last post anywhere ever again and went back to the shadows. So, this gets into a whole ordeal of Battlescribe is a very good free alternative to the Warhammer 40K app.
It's what we used all throughout 9th. And it now has 10th edition.
I would warn our audience on an ethical level against giving any type of donation to Battlescribe. I can tell you a sneaky thing that I would not recommend you do, not allegedly. You should definitely not update your data on Battlescribe while you have an internet connection and then deny it access in your Android app options to the internet so it can't show you ads. That would be mean.
That would be mean, yeah.
Don't do that. That would be uncool. So anyway, let's do a review of Battlescribe now.
Yeah.
So my wife had no previous experience with Battlescribe, so she was a way less biased reviewer than Eric and I.
I do have a question. Did she look at it on the computer and mobile?
She did most of it on PC. I had it open on my phone and made her poke through there as well. She spent about a minute on the phone.
Okay.
And I was able to answer some questions for her about how it works gameplay-wise on the phone, because she obviously didn't have that experience. So, first things first, I like the items I didn't select are not in the view mode. Good job. Finding the view mode was stupid, as I didn't think show the list would be an eyeball. Fair enough.
That is completely fair in the desktop one. The only reason I knew is because it was like trying to find it in the mobile. There's only so many options. Eventually, you just accidentally pick.
In the mobile, it's just the ... and then you push the word view.
Yeah.
And the reason in desktop you know you can do it is because you're like, I can do this on mobile. Where is the button?
Yeah. Without that, I'm assuming that you told her.
No, I made her look for it, and then finally I told her when she gave up.
Okay.
Hence her very clear words of finding the view mode was stupid.
Yeah.
The readability of the plain text on white without word wrapping when you zoom in is extremely questionable, especially on the phone app version. She's right. I take the pain for granted. I forget that it could have been designed better, and I just kind of live with it at this point, but she's totally right. It's so awkward when you zoom in, and then you're scrolling left to right to read the whole sentence.
I absolutely am with you on that. Like, it's accepted at this point.
This was when she learned she missed something from the 40K app. She wasn't aware this wasn't going to be a thing the whole way through, and so she didn't mark it as a positive there. On the 40K app, you can click blast, and it will give you what blast is. You can click lethal hits, it will tell you what lethal hits is. For Battlescribe, any keywords are only at the very bottom of your full list if you scroll all the way to the bottom, and it was much more annoying for her to look that stuff up, which again, it's something you and I don't do as often, unless we're trying to remember the exact phrasing of your teleport ability or something. thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's like it's not just those, it's like all of the things kind of smashed together. So you're trying to find like, okay, what's the useful one that I'm trying to find?
And then this one gets into, this is my note, which is, I didn't even have her realize there's inconsistencies between the different data group members. So what is true for how you put together a Xenos army may not be the same for an Imperium army. There's a famous, notorious example for 8th edition and 9th edition, Grey Knights.
Yeah.
Eric had by far the worst written faction for 8th and 9th, no offense to the person who was upkeeping that data.
It technically worked, and that was fine.
It was alien on how it was constructed compared to the others back then.
It was substantially different than the others.
And you would occasionally find funny things where there was clearly custody copy-paste code in there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's one of those that anytime you've got this, like, the app is separate from the data, there's going to be, like, oh, the community can add the data. There's going to be sections that are more popular.
Yeah, it's like a wiki. Not every page on a wiki is going to look the exact same.
But at the very least, everything generally worked well enough that you could figure things out, even the ones that had some problems.
Yeah, but I expect that would have been another negative of hers had she gone that far.
Yeah.
And it's unavoidable. The team puts in a lot of hard work. And I will say this, while we're midway through this review, this is not the only app that's going to use this data repository. And if you want to help the Battlescribe data devs that you think of as the Battlescribe devs if you're more casual, the guys who actually put together all this stuff, get it tested and get it out to you within a week or two of the codex launching, one of the best things you can do is volunteer to help.
Yep.
You don't have to be that technically inclined. One thing that I did throughout 9th edition was I think on probably 7 of the codices, I would, the week before the codex launched, I had a way to get access to a codex early by about 4 or 5 days pretty reliably. What I would do is I would grab the beta version of that repository, manually sideload it into my app, and then start utilizing it and figuring out what was bugged, what had typos, and then I would do a proper GitHub bug report form and actually, get that solved properly and not just report it on the Discord and have them get annoyed with you for not reading the damn rules.
But like you said, it's not actually difficult. You don't have to have coding experience. It's just read the rules. Is it right? If not, why is it not?
And double check your own thoughts too and be like, is this actually wrong or did I misread this and they were right? But it's a great way to help them out. Anyway, back to the actual stuff going on here. Leaders once again can't be attached to the unit, blah, blah, blah.
Not unexpected.
But now it's scrolling up and down a mile instead of tabbing back and forth. She said it's a step up, but still terrible overall.
Okay, because I was like, I enjoy that better, but I'm not sure if that's just because I've become accustomed.
You and I are so used to doing that, where it's like, oh crap, the aura they're in is, okay, they've got reroll 1s, and they're in this aura, they've got reroll 1s to wound as well.
Yep, and you're just like scrolling on your phone up and down, just like, oh, yep, that's at the top area, that's in the middle, and it's like, okay, so a very slight step up. Okay.
It's still not ideal, but it is a step up. Her next note is, this is very utilitarian, and it may be a bit too Spartan for most new players.
Yeah.
And she joked then, it may be an actual upside for you, and she's correct.
I do like seeing the models, but just having the information when I'm trying to look things up is just easier.
Yeah. Then her next line is, the UX is clearly not as nice due to lack of pictures, mostly plain text, no formatting to be seen anywhere, the most basic table you've ever seen, it's actually hard to read at times.
Yeah.
Then she said you can only save unit loadouts if you pay for the app subscription, because she noticed it was there, and she was like, oh neat, this has it. And then I was like, oh crap, and I loaded it on her computer, and she did not have that. It's part of being paid, and I'm still paid from last year, which Battlescribe would really like to remind me that my subscription ends September 8th, right in the middle of 1 year from when we were told totally for realsies, absolutely going to be working on this again. I'm not mad, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. I did forget that was a paid thing. I haven't paid for a while now, so I forgot that we could even do it, because it's not that big of a deal to me to just make something new, but
it's a bigger deal when you're like me and you're making a Scarab Occult Terminator block for the 100th time, and I have that shit saved.
That's fair, yeah.
When you've got 14 options in a unit.
I was like, especially because the interface doesn't make it easy to just be like, click, 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 done.
Yeah, especially on PC where it chugs every time you add or remove something.
God, I don't understand how it's so... I don't know if she's brought this up, but the Warhammer 40k app, quick and snappy. Battlescribe, Not too bad on mobile. It's ridiculous on PC that it has any lag, any type of like, oh, it's just going to take a second to figure out.
Eric, my Ryzen's not very powerful.
It doesn't make any sense.
Duplicating units in the list works. Duplicating models exists, which is not in the 40k app and is a huge win. The extra categories that they added for 10th edition feels better than the giant list of everything that isn't a character or battle line, and she's totally right there.
Yeah.
I agree with her so strongly on that one.
I guess I don't have strong opinions either way on that.
You mostly look at Grey Knights.
I've got orcs as well.
You've got orcs now, so you've got one army that has multiple units.
And to be fair, mostly I just look at vehicles. So it's not much different.
Then she asked, oh, where are my stratagems?
Rip.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about you have to have 2 apps open in order to play the game. And you'll have to have WAPD or something.
Yeah. But then you've got like the PDF open on your phone that you got to switch back to. And it's like.
She brought up that hovering over guns while adding them shows the rule stat line, which is very nice, but a bit finicky on PC. And I agree with her. On phone, you can long click it and then open up just its stat line. It's not as smooth, but it's a thing.
I don't think I've ever noticed that on PC.
Yeah, you usually don't only do it on accident on PC when you're hovered over something while looking somewhere else and then come back and see a floating stat block.
It takes so fucking long.
Yeah, it's not great. Then she said, duplicating loadouts within the unit is awesome for the Carnifexes. She was right. She did not enjoy having to load out Carnifexes.
Makes sense.
Then this is definitely quicker to build your list in, but loses a lot of UX points when it comes to the play end of things. And I agree with her.
Okay, yeah.
The giant vanilla list, not having access to your stratagems, having issues, especially for a new player to not have easy access to the definitions of all the keywords. There's a lot of little negatives piling up.
Yeah. I think once you've become more used to it, it's not quite as noticeable in the difference between how it is actually used during play, but that's only because you become so used to the quirks that you're like, these are my workarounds to get it to work.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment.
This is definitely one where, like, I am glad that you allowed your wife to review these.
She was so happy when I asked her if she would help with this. She's very happy that we're recording this for an hour and a half tonight instead of her playing the new Genshin expansion.
That's on the mobile. The mobile. Fuck me.
So her final point was at the end after we had reviewed them all, and she said the fact that it's free and there's only a few bonus features behind the paywall makes it less scummy, and the paywall is by far the lowest, which is nice. And she's correct there, because I believe it was, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe it's still like $3 a year. It might be $6. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was under 10 for the entire year.
Yeah. So up next is the not so great option.
We've got Rosterizer, and I had hoped that it was better.
So Rosterizer and New Recruit are the final two that we're going to do a deep dive on that Eric and I are actually new to, so our opinions matter.
Our opinions always matter, Brad.
My opinion always matters. I'm the main character. You're all in my head. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So Rosterizer has issues, to say the least. Borrelio, have fun getting footage of this thing. It's a website. My first challenge to my wife, because I tested it the day before, was to send her a link to the website and say, find the build armies area and start building your army, with no warning, because I'm an ass.
Yeah, you are.
The first response I got from her is, how is build armies not a button? It's just text, because there is a giant build armies obvious button, front, top, left, first thing you see on the page, and it ain't it.
And it's even got like a little like picture behind it kind of thing. Like, yeah, this is obviously a button.
A minute later of angry clicking around, I get, how do I use this site? Over 2 minutes later, she still had no clue where to go, which is essentially how long it took me on my first try of doing this. And she did what I did, gave up, and Googled how to do it.
I had the same kind of thing, except about a minute in, I was like, oh, there's a login. There has to be a way to do this without logging in.
There is not.
And then I spent another minute or two and was like, nope, gotta log in.
So that was followed by the message, oh, this is not worth giving my information to this sketchy ass website for. Why do I have to make a login for this thing?
Did you actually get her to make a login for it?
No.
Okay. I was like, there's no way you're still alive after forcing her.
She gave up at that step and protested this one, and we moved on to the next for her. But I will give my review from here.
So you have to make an account.
And then you're greeted with a UI that was built by an alien who vaguely understands how human eyes work. You have to custom add every army's data anytime you want to swap to do a new army. It warns you that if you have too many datas loaded, it will slow down. That's cool.
I mean, I haven't ran into what I expect was it slows down, because it was just kind of slow.
You only had one thing open.
Yeah.
So then I went, okay, I'll just try Necrons. I tried Necrons, and then I got an error that said, Necrons is missing dependencies from 40k 10e. Eric thought he broke his because he had the same thing when he tried Orcs.
Yeah, and I had done this on the PC, and then today I was like, okay, I want to try out the mobile. Maybe the mobile version is different because, it's like a website. And I thought I just broke stuff. Apparently it like unconnected my Orc 10e thing, and I look at this, I'm like, oh, it's broken, Brad. Haha, isn't that funny? And you're like, no, you just gotta click it.
Yeah, you've got to like rev it like it's an old lawnmower to make it work. It's weird. Just click a button and it's like, oh, never mind, I figured it out. You clicked the button telling me to do the thing that I just asked you where it is.
Right.
I will say it gets positive points in one area. It has the balls to just include all the strats and stuff. The BS data team will not do that. They fear the angering of the gods. This team did not give a shit.
I don't really understand why they're worried about it at that point.
It gets into the whole, if they get shut down, 40k dies as a game.
But like, you already have all of the abilities, and like,
this gets into the whole, where's the line? We don't know, but we're afraid of finding it because you can only find it once, then it's game over.
Right. But it is nice that this one does include that kind of stuff.
Yes, it is my singular positive. This UI is somehow worse than one we'll get to and Battlescribe, which felt old and minimalistic. This one feels alien and absurd.
And I think that is really what it's down to. It's like, it's not old and minimalistic. It's just everything is wrong.
Everything is wrong. Everything feels so bad to use. I cannot explain how insane changing war gear on a unit was.
It reminds me of when in college I was bored one time and started looking at some of like the like custom OSs that are built from scratch. It reminds me of those, where it's like you've got this insane idea that you're going to figure out how to do something different than Unix and Windows, and it's like, what if we did everything different? And it's like, how about you fucking don't?
Don't be special just to be special. Have a proper reason. So for me, the thing it reminds me of a lot is actually something that a lot of people won't have experience with, which is editing the Battlescribe data. It is closer to using Battlescribe's data editor than using the roster editor. That is a huge, huge, huge negative.
That could kind of make sense on how it has become this.
Yes. It's like you're using the data editor without the rights of editing to make your roster, is how it feels to me.
Okay.
It's hard to tell what a button will even do before you click it.
Yeah, it technically exists and it technically works.
And every word on that page is a button.
Except for build roster or whatever.
Yes, this website feels like a CIA psyop. I feel like I'm in MK Ultra and they want me to become a bloodthirsty killer. Because this site is criminally poorly designed. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. No, I can say it's poorly designed. I've got my own opinions on that one. It's tough to be so negative about things.
Especially because as content creators, we tend not to do as much negative episode topics. I will get negative in an episode. Everyone enjoys that. But we don't tend to do GW is destroying the game or anything like that. So when we roast somebody's hard work, it always feels a bit gross to do it.
And it's like you said, like, this is hard work. Somebody or several people have spent good time working on this.
But at the same time, just because you worked hard doesn't mean I have to like the end result of your work.
Yeah.
And this sucked.
I hope that the back end data collection and all of that stuff is good and solid, and they can just get somebody that knows how to do UI to redo it all. Because like the data's there and you click things and it's like, oh, here's the abilities. And I am disappointed that I dislike it so much because I was hoping it would be good, and maybe it will be at some point.
All right, so this has been a real downer of an episode, but let's salvage it with one last review.
We've got kind of the dark horse that I didn't even know about until you brought this up.
I knew about it, but had ignored it and had no interest in it and figured it was your typical grassrootsy reboot attempt that was going to inevitably fail.
So we've got New Recruit.
They are at newrecruit.eu, which .eu already had me going, oh no, this is going to be amateur hour.
I mean, New Recruit was also like, really? That's your name? Gonna make it that easy on the searching of Google and analytics and stuff? But okay.
So I didn't really test this one until I was last night having the wife test them all. I hadn't actually built a list in this yet. I just had it on the list of things that had to get talked about. I was pretty blown away by how good this was.
I'm very interested in continuing to use it.
Yes. So let's go in detail about my wife's review as a new person who had just seen Battlescribe for the first time.
Was this before or after Rosterizer?
Before. Rosterizer was technically last for her, which is probably part of her fuck this. Because she had just used New Recruit, then she used that, and she was like, why are you even checking this?
Okay.
Now, New Recruit does have negatives. There are critiques to give them, especially on the presentation side of things. We're going to put those to the side and talk about them at the end, in good faith, as things we would like to see the devs work on. Because this is the most hope I've had for a new piece of tech regarding 40K list building.
Okay. So what did your wife have for thoughts on this website's builder?
Her first thing is, well, this is a website, so that's both a pro and a con. I don't have to install anything on my phone, but you can't choose to use it without an internet connection. Having an app version might be a boon, especially because when you're trying to play a game, if you're in a basement without phone signal, it's going to suck. And she's very much right.
That actually is something that I didn't think of, but given that where we play is in a basement without phone signal, this could be kind of annoying.
I would never admit to something that would negatively impact my day job, but part of not testing New Recruit may or may not have been because I was somewhere without phone signal, so I couldn't access the website to test it when I was testing all the other stuff.
But at the same time, it is kind of nice to just be like, open it up, start making a list. You don't have to download shit.
I would much prefer a phone app. I'm just saying.
I like the idea of having it both.
That's where I am. It should be a website, but give me a phone app wrapper so that I can have in the app, download data locally, use it locally.
Yeah.
Anyway, that gets into real critiques.
Right, but this was an issue that I hadn't thought of.
Yes, and it's one she immediately thought of because I had mentioned that I hadn't tested it specifically because of that.
Allegedly.
So there's definitely some weird math bugs going on when it comes to point calculation. When she built her list, pointed out Epic Hero is separate from characters, but when you add Old One Eye, your character points go up as well as your Epic Hero points. So her 1,000-point list had way off points on each section if you added them all up in your head.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Monster. It also ticked up when she added Old One Eye because he is a monster and a character. So it went Epic Hero went up, Monster went up, and character all went up. It's a visual bug type thing, but it's something that is wrong.
It's definitely something that would be problematic, yeah, especially for newer players that are like, is my list okay or not?
Her next thing is the view screen is a big upgrade over Battlescribe, and I 100% agree with her, and it's where it won me over. This is one of those, you've been trapped with something for so long you didn't realize how bad it was until you saw the future and went, oh my god, it gets so much better.
There is possibility.
Her very first impression is, I don't hate this, which is a pretty high bar compared to anything else 40K related she touches.
What way did you start with in like the export viewing?
Yes, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So she noticed right away this is clearly using the same backend as Battlescribe, and it has a billion identical looking features all over the place, but like with a different wrapping paper on it. I confirmed for her that yes, it uses the exact same data as Battlescribe. She then did export to PDF just to see what it would look like for that, because that was one of the things she complained about with Battlescribe, and she found it later, which is why it wasn't in the notes, is she wanted to PDFify it or whatever to just keep it that way.
Which honestly is kind of nice because you can just like print it out and be like, okay, these are the 6 data sheets that I need to reference, especially if you're in a basement with no internet connection.
Yes. So this next part gets into details for the PDF stuff. A few items in the PDF were broken formatting. Old One Eye stat block got jumbled, so did the Zone Zoanthrope stat block, like the text became like super wide.
Oh, really?
Like the letter A is like a word long.
Okay.
Little weird things with the formatting. Not a huge issue, but something that's a bug.
Yeah.
It dumps all the keywords into a table on the one view mode, which was fine, but it repeats them literally, meaning if you have 15 blast weapons, it goes blast, lethal hits, blast, devastating wounds, blast, blast.
The thing that gets me is it does your army faction ability, so wah, leader, rapid fire, wah.
That's great. I hadn't seen that in the one that she was showing me. It's not good, but it's cool.
It was particularly funny to me because I was doing it on orcs, and it was just like, wah, wah, wah.
You've got wah Tourette's.
Fair enough. I also enjoy orcs.
The condensed weapon summary was really good in the one export to PDF view format thing, but when it says Xenos Teeth and Claws 4 times in a row with different strengths, because that's the melee weapon that everybody has, it makes it basically useless for stuff like that, but it's probably good for armies that don't have that issue.
Yeah, I can see that being a problem.
And then her next note, you must hate this because you hate online-only tools. She's right. I was a big naysayer of this before using it with her there to warm me up to it.
And I would love to see this as an app as well, but like I can accept, especially if this is a tool in addition to other options kind of thing.
Yes. If it was the only option we have, I'd be more strongly demanding my offline versions of things. But anyway, then she noted export pretty is clearly better than export the normal one, right?
Really?
She liked it way more.
I've had substantial issues with export pretty.
Her issue with export pretty, she said that the normal one is more dense for pros like Brad. My wife thinks I'm a pro.
How'd you fucking gaslight her on that one?
I don't know. The pretty PDF sadly doesn't do the index of keywords at the bottom and the rules at the bottom like the standard one does. Nor does it do super dense stat lines, which would actually really help when she's playing.
Yeah.
And I agree with her on that because she pointed out on the normal one, she's like, this is exactly what I wanted when I was playing last week. It was basically a table that is exocrine, burp, stat line.
This is what you need to know.
Next row down, zoanthropes or whatever, stat line. Next row down, carnifex, stat line.
So I'm going to put this in here.
That's not supposed to look like that, Eric.
I'm going to take a quick tangent and explain why I don't like export pretty.
You broke it.
Because New Recruit has an interesting ability. It has options, and you can apply themes and appearance changes.
Oh, god damn it, you were fucking around with...
Very cool. There's a dragon theme, Brad. Fuck you. There's a dragon theme. Okay? Guess what I chose? I chose the fucking dragon theme because it's cool.
Okay. And that's why yours is broken?
Export PDF pretty when it's normal, and the default works fine. When it's dragon, it does what I showed you.
So there's a bug.
And once I found that you could change the themes,
You were just using that theme the whole time?
I was just using that theme for the whole time.
So you thought it's way buggier than it was?
I hadn't done PDF pretty because I did some stuff, you know, I exported text and all that kind of stuff and like looked at a bunch of things. And then I was like, oh, there's options. Ooh, there's themes. And then I was like, okay, let's see how this theme works. And I got in some more stuff. I got to, oh, let's see what this export pretty is. I was like, oh, it's just broken. No, it's just broken for dragon theme. Maybe it's the other ones as well. But classic, solid.
To make it make more sense to you, I spent time on their Discord today.
Ooh.
In the announcements thread, Export Pretty was announced on 7/10, so it's literally a month and a few days old.
Fair enough.
So I'll give them a pass on there being a bug on themes plus Export Pretty.
Oh, absolutely. And that's fine. Like, completely understandable. The fact that they have so much, you should actually take a look at their options because it's not just themes. You can change the font colors. You can change the size of the text. You can change the background colors.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
It is an actual full options UI that I would expect from somebody that was like hey, let's give the user options because this is a website.
Okay, I wonder if some of her and my shared negatives go away if we knew about that. But I still would then argue the default is the problem, so there is still a problem, but we'll see.
Sure. I mean, whether all of that actually works or not, I haven't done a deep dive, but it exists, and it's actually pretty cool that that exists because it is a website.
Also, leave it to Eric. For 3 seconds into a new website he's supposed to be testing for 20 minutes, he goes out of his way to find a dark mode.
Yeah, I'm not fucking a psychopath that stays in light mode and everything.
You're there for 20 minutes. I didn't ask you to fucking build a house.
You asked me to build a list, though, which is arguably more difficult and more strenuous than building a house.
Not in 10th. Don't lie to me.
That's true.
That's what very true. Fucking options.
That's very true, yeah.
So, anyway.
That tangent aside...
That's a good tangent. It's a legitimate one to add to the list. There's still no linking leaders or squads. Again, this was something common for all of them for her. But she pointed out this one has the best information that is easier to read closer together where she wants it in the PDF form.
Okay.
When the PDF gets opened, it should open either as a new tab or a pop-up window or something because it replaces the list in your current tab and it's really uncomfortable feeling from a UX standpoint.
That's only for Pretty.
Okay.
So the Pretty doesn't actually download a PDF. It's just a new view in the actual website, whereas the export list PDF, like the full one, actually like downloads a .pdf and then opens it in a new tab.
Okay.
But completely fair that like, yeah, the Pretty view should probably
not fully take over the tab that you were in.
Yeah.
The LiQWYD support seems helpful since we're doing that TTS league right now. And she's right. So LiQWYD, previously I'd use Battlescribe, which is why I had to teach her Battlescribe last week so she could play in the TTS league the patrons are doing as a learning league type thing.
Yeah.
So this having it built into the website seems like a big boon.
It does make sense because it's using like a lot of the same stuff, but I will definitely be trying that out at some point now.
I wonder if my AdMech list wouldn't have broken in that because it did break when I used Battlescribe for LiQWYD.
That was one of the things, like, I wonder if it has the exact same problems or...
Is it a problem at the BS data to LiQWYD with 10th edition, or is it a problem with how it got exported out of Battlescribe itself?
It would be interesting to test that out. But yes, it is nice that that option exists.
Then she said the share button is really nice, which, yeah, it's cute.
Oh, it's a fucking QR code. That's cool.
Yeah. She showed me that because she had me look over and it was a QR thing.
That is neat.
Yeah.
Honestly, sharing lists is kind of a pain in the ass.
It is. You and I both know sharing a Battlescribe roster over Discord, the groan from the other person.
Yeah. And like, there's no real good way of doing it. Sometimes you're like, oh, if I format it like this, it'll like condense it. And it's like, well, yeah, but it also fucked up the formatting.
Or you just send them the .rawz file and you're like, fuck you, I'm not downloading this, putting it in the right folder so that it will auto-open. Fuck you. I don't care about your list that much.
I'm sure it was brilliant.
It's very cute. I'm sure there's a Stompa in there, Eric.
How'd you know? List name Stompa is cool.
It's a Grey Knight list. He just has to put the fact that...
Oh, yeah. That would be nice to have, and I expect to try that out at some point to see if it actually works well.
Oh, her next note is a negative, though. This is a combo of dated yet more formatted than Battlescribe. If it cleaned up the UI to not look like it's from 2001, it would be clearly superior due to all the nice view pop-ups and other things. It's much better looking table-wise. There's real formatting in the data section with bold and underline and actual boxes on tables. Those are things that I hard agreed with her with once I actually tested it, so I get that one. But she's right, it looks like it's a 2001 website, which I wonder if the theme thing modernizes it.
It's not going to...
Does it fix the fact that it looks like it's on crumpled cardboard background that I posted on a GeoCities site?
Yes.
Okay. That's a key win.
Let me give you my dragon theme one.
Oh, that's so much better. Oh, okay.
Fundamentally, it's still all the same.
But it doesn't have the awful texture background, real old man looking stuff. Okay. This is much more modern looking immediately. Just that one simple fix.
Yeah, and you definitely should take a look at the options because you can change, like, the text doesn't need to be Comic Sans.
This is pretty cool.
But I do accept that, like, fundamentally, the core design...
God damn it, you did make the text Comic Sans. What's wrong with you?
I'm pretty sure that one's default for Dragon. I don't know for certain. I would have done it if it wasn't, but I think it is default.
This is why we don't get extra points on our own UI choices with Eric at the helm.
Oh, no. I can tell you when things are probably bad. I can't tell you what's good, though.
Unironic Comic Sans.
Hey, man, fuck you. So there's only so much that you can do when fundamental style is going to be this like Excel-like backend data, unless you're going to go full the GW app with like, ooh, pretty pictures and, you know, like the fundamental design and core design idea has to be one or the other, and you're not just going to switch it. So it is kind of older looking, but I think that because it has all of the options to change some of the text and background and that kind of stuff, that like you can make it look better than its default, and they probably should change the default, yes.
So the last three are from after we tested everything and I had her do the final reviews. She said, new recruit is my favorite of the ones you had me test. List being on your account and being able to be pulled up from a different location most likely would be a huge win, because we did find that you have an account you can load. We didn't actually test if she could do it on her phone and then on her PC, but if they do an account and it saves there, that would be awesome, because then making your list at work and then going home, not that I would ever make my list at work, you wouldn't have to worry about leaving it at work.
Allegedly. It looks like it does keep everything. I mean, I haven't tried on the phone, but logging in with like a separate browser.
It shouldn't be saved at least at like a browser level then. It's saved somewhere.
And it's even kept all my fucking theming and everything too.
Okay, cool.
So it should. If not, then it's probably some type of bug.
Yeah. Then her next thing was, I worry that if this is all stored on servers, it's going to cost them a lot of running cost. If it blows up in popularity, double so. And I half agree with her, but we have experience with Cube Cobra and Gwen, so I know it won't ever go crazy expensive, but it might be to a point where they actually need like $1,000 a month to run everything. Just if, you know, they keep your list for all time and there is thousands of people who make one list, it starts to add up. And then if you're making a shitload of lists like a power user would, it's going to really start to add up. So yeah, that could be a problem for them. I don't know how they're doing that on the back end. Maybe it's not an issue. Maybe it's something that they have to be aware of long term.
I agree that there is some concern of like, because it's just a website and it's all stored somewhere, you could lose all of your data if the website's just like, nope, ran out of money.
Yeah. And then her last note was something that was nice in both Battlescribe and New Recruit was it's nice that you could add multiple games to the library, because you could play a Warhammer game, then a Star Wars game, or you could have AOS and 40K in the same app. Things that were not true of the 40K app, obviously.
Yeah, because they're made by two different teams. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. That is the final review, but there are critiques. These are made for the New Recruit team themselves, because I honestly think this is the one I liked the most, and we have a platform, so we might as well make some critiques.
All right.
These were things we noticed when we were first trying it out. The Try Now button and the Warhammer 40K link both don't have 10th edition apparent, so you even know it exists.
Yeah, it defaults to 9th.
Brings you to the 9th wiki. That stuff needs to get updated ASAP, because people are going to click on this website and not even know it's updated.
Yeah, that is fair.
The main site looks like it's from 2001. That's not a functional issue, but hire on a web designer for the front end stuff. Eric just showed us that you can change it, so maybe it's use a different default style.
Yeah, I would definitely use a different default style, not what I use.
But something so that it's a little fresher looking than what's on that starter website.
But I think that there are some UI things, especially from the front-facing original screen, before you log in, before you see anything. I think there's more that can be done on that part.
Speaking of that portion, the news page is totally blank. Should probably either cut it or actually upkeep the news page.
Yeah.
There's some sort of ladder/elo support system. My wife was uninterested in that, but she thought it was kind of neat.
I poked around on that tournament thing. I don't understand it.
There's a single person on the 10th edition elo ladder, so I don't know if it's functional or if that was a dev testing.
I think it's testing still. I am interested to see where it goes eventually, but like, I'm not that that concerned. So don't spend a whole bunch of your development time on that, but it would be kind of neat if it worked out and was cool.
You can spend tons of development time on that as long as the list builder part is working great.
That's true, yeah.
You can do other things and branch out and become a multifaceted site.
Just focus on your core list building first.
Oh, this was one. When you're editing a list, pushing menus should not eat the whole screen because it makes you very worried that your list just got nuked. She had it and I had it. And when she mentioned it to me, I was like, yes, I just scared the shit out of myself doing that.
And optimally, menu should be like a pop-up kind of thing.
Or a side frame that comes out.
Yeah, it goes away after you click it again and you're back to where you were.
Yeah, there's little things on that needs to get updated. So that's the more like attempting to be helpful but negative things to say, but like these are problems with New Recruit that are very fixable. And these are probably more important to fix than things within the list building because they're all first impression level things. These were the things we did the second we clicked on the site and started clicking around.
Yeah, and I think that the primary one, the 40K 10th edition, should be the default. Make that just the first step, honestly, because that's what people are interested in looking at right now. That said, there's also some things that still need to be done on the list side as well, but I have hope that things are progressing. Seems like things are being updated.
So do we want to do like a final verdict?
Yeah, I mean, real quick though, we've got Quartermaster. Neither of us, your wife included, doesn't have Apple. So no, and also I wasn't going to pay $13 for this app.
It's $13?
Yeah, maybe there's some like other free thing, but like when I looked at it, I was like, the iOS link is $13.
Another alternative that we haven't really mentioned on this is Google Sheets.
Yeah.
This is something that was working the day the index is launched. Like some crazy people got it running within like 12 hours.
And there were some issues, but they got reasonably cleaned up quickly.
It's probably the most minimalistic answer. It's not a terrible one. It's free to use.
It generally works. The primary issues are like it doesn't do a great job of like this is what things do.
Yeah, again, it would be something you have to accent.
Yeah, it is definitely an option.
All right, so let's do final verdicts then. I would say number one is New Recruit now. It has surpassed Battlescribe for me because I don't feel shitty every time I open it and remember that I paid money to a liar, allegedly.
I think I'm still going to use Battlescribe because I'm used to it, but I expect to be using New Recruit more, especially on desktop, just because I fucking hate Battlescribe on the desktop.
Oh yeah, it's really bad.
So it'll be one of those, like, if I'm on my computer, I'll just use New Recruit, and I'll start getting more and more used to it, I'm sure, and then it'll probably just become the default. But, like, right now, mobile, I've had a few issues with screen resolution stuff with New Recruit, and part of that's just because my phone's starting to get old, but part of it's also just because I'm used to Battlescribe's quirks for mobile. But I'm expecting to use Battlescribe on mobile until I get familiar enough with New Recruit, and then that becomes what I'm using.
Yeah, I would say Battlescribe is my number two. If it's your number one and New Recruit's your number two, sure.
They're close enough, like they're the options, and really.
If New Recruit didn't exist, I'd be right back to Battlescribe.
Yeah. Google Sheets.
Yeah, honestly, it's probably my follow-up to that because
it's easy.
It is, and it's minimal, but like I'm already going to use something else for my index or codex whenever, and you and I memorize so much stuff we don't tend to need our references as often in a game.
I think the issue I have with Google Sheets is that Wikipedia is not updated yet.
And that's the elephant in the room right now for everything that is not GW.
Yeah.
If you need a stratagem, you better have your index PDF because you can't go on Wikipedia to look at it.
Which
is painful.
Is very painful, honestly. I did some looking to see, like, okay, what's happening with Wikipedia? Apparently not dead, and hopefully having 10th ready in autumn.
I love that you found Wikipedia's, like, Russian Twitter feed.
Yeah, and then tried using Google Translate to figure out what the hell's going on. So, not really certain if that's accurate at all, or if that's just some other random Russian Twitter Wikipedia just fucking with me. I hope that Wikipedia updates, because if it doesn't, GW's honestly going to be in some real shit.
If there's no free way to access, like, the Space Marine Codex after it drops,
yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen with 10th at a certain point.
When that kind of stuff comes up, we'll figure out, but, like, Wikipedia has helped the community so much that it not being in 10th yet is a problem for GW, honestly.
All right, that does it. If this episode helped you at all, consider checking out some of our other introductory content and maybe toss us some of the usual YouTube pleasantries. For now, let's get out of here.
Sounds good.